Malone has enjoyed a pretty good reputation as an NBA head coach and has had a good amount of success, but it can get stale. I mean, to me, the most surprising thing was to do it, a week or so before the playoffs, and you're a playoff team. It's one thing if you're not. So I was just surprised by the timing of the move. It felt like Denver was not getting better. Overall, from the title team to last year to this year, there did not feel like there was an upward trajectory in what they're doing. And to me, that's always the coaching thing. Like, you always have to create a feeling that the group is moving forward in a positive direction. And when you can't do that for wwhatever reason, as a coach, you've kind of outlived your usefulness. That's just what it is.
Well, another thing that happened, they burned the force down in Denver, man.
They did.
Fired Mike Malone. They fired the GM, okay, and all of that good stuff. What's funny about that is I was a few weeks ago talking about the black GMs and whatnot, and I was saying, well, the guy in Denver, I'll give you him if you must, but he really hasn't done much because Jokic, remember, is already there. What has he done? And bingo, he's out of there. So there you have it. All right, so you can have him if you want, but I'm telling you. So Calvin Booth, he's out of there too. And as the days go by, we're finding out, and Jokic actually spoke on it today, and basically, he just said, he understood the move. It was his words, but basically said he understood the Malone firing, and he was informed of the decision beforehand, which of course we all know any star in the NBA is, if not make the decision themselves, they're definitely going to know. Well, I mean, LeBron says he didn't know about Luka, but I think LeBron is a guy we can't really trust.
LeBron's a historical liar.
Yeah. So you got the Jokic saying he understood. He didn't fight for Mike Malone. He just said, hey, okay, I understand.
Yeah.
And basically, essentially, it was a couple of things why Mike Malone was let go. And that's, Jokic said the team, the defense part of it, felt like his defensive principles were getting stale. Then, him calling out a couple of players in the presser, that didn't help, okay? And then from the ownership view of it, they're saying that the relationship between Calvin and Mike Malone had pretty much soured to a point where they haven't even spoken in months.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's really a partnership. The GM and coach is supposed to,
it should be a partnership.
And Calvin wanted Mike to play a young player over Russ in a few games. And especially when Russ had that blunder, that was a game where Calvin specifically told, Mike, got a message to him, hey, I want this young player here that we drafted to play more minutes than Russ. And then when Russ goes out there and misses a layup, fouls the guy, apparently Calvin lost his shit, and there was a huge blow up over that. And then there you have it. And then ownership was like, okay, we'll just get rid of both of you guys. They probably was going to do it anyway in the off season. Let's just do it now.
Yeah.
And there you have it.
Yeah, I mean, Malone has enjoyed a pretty good reputation as an NBA head coach and has had a good amount of success, but it can get stale. I mean, to me, the most surprising thing was to do it, a week or so before the playoffs, and you're a playoff team. It's one thing if you're not. I was just surprised by the timing of the move. It felt like Denver was not getting better, overall. From the title team to last year to this year, there did not feel like there was an upward trajectory in what they're doing. And to me, that's always the coaching thing. Like, you always have to create a feeling that the group is moving forward in a positive direction. And when you can't do that for whatever reason, as a coach, you've kind of outlived your usefulness. That's just what it is. Interestingly, I saw, do you know the college coach Buzz Williams? You know who he is?
I've heard that name.
He's bounced around a bunch of different schools. He's like an interesting character, but he has a 6 or 7 year theory, and he's never going to stay at a job for a 7th year. And his last 3 or 4 jobs, he's left. And he goes, his theory in successful coaching is this: go to a bad job, start winning. And by the 5-6 year mark, you've gotten as good as you're going to be there, and you're only going to either plateau or regress. And even in either situation, you've created an expectation you're not going to meet anymore, and it's time to go. And so he's literally been a college head coach for Marquette, Virginia Tech, Texas A&M, like a bunch of different schools, and he always leaves in 6 years when he's, again, he's the type of guy, he's never won a natty. I don't think he's been to a Final Four, but his teams are almost always in the tournament. They always play pretty well, and he just kind of keeps moving on before the expectations swallow him up.
Yeah.
It's an interesting way to do it. It's probably a great way to be employed, but I wouldn't do it myself.
That seems a little too.
I want to win things.
Yeah.
I do. And that's.
And I'm not. And also, I'm not satisfied if I didn't win. There's a salty taste in my mouth. I have to stay here until I win something of significance. Now, let me ask you this: from the NBA this season, what has been the most surprising thing? I'll give you a few things to choose from. You have the Mike Malone and Calvin Booth firing. You have the Luka trade. You have Detroit Pistons being good. And the 76ers collapse. What has been the most shocking?
Luka, without a doubt.
That really shocked you?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
This is a guy that led a team to the finals, in the prime of his career. And, you could look back and look at factors like Cuban's not the owner anymore and some other things and suggest that this was possible. But there's no way. The night that came through, I was legitimately shocked.
Yeah.
My first reaction is is this real? What account is reporting that? None of the other things that you brought up approach that. I'm pleasantly happy because I kind of like Cade Cunningham that Detroit is doing well, but I'm not surprised or blown away by that. The Malone firing, again, the timing is surprising, but it doesn't compare to Luka. And the 76ers collapse, while unfortunate, particularly for you, it's just not something I give a shit about. I just don't care. They don't matter to me. Embiid playing a lot, which kind of almost is something that in hindsight never happened, is okay. And you kind of felt weird about him at the Olympics.
Yeah.
He had a few moments, but he didn't.
He never looked great.
He never looked great.
But he did have a couple of moments, but he never looked great.
He didn't even look like he was enjoying the experience.
Yeah.
And almost everybody
he was in
else.
pain, that's why.
But that's the telling factor.
Yeah.
You had 10 guys that were having the time of their life. You had Jason Tatum and you had Embiid.
That's
your Olympic team.
That really was.
For different reasons.
Different reasons.
Yeah. Tatum was the odd man out in the rotation, and then Embiid was apparently in pain the entire time.
Yeah.
So, and apparently based on his sort of smug response to some other guys appearing to be high, he might not have been medicating himself with weed. Which might have changed his spirits a bit.
Yeah. I know KD was loaded.
Yeah.
No, that's for sure. I guess the Luka trade is the most shocking. I'm trying to pull myself to one of the others, but those are probably the most four shocking things of the NBA.
Yeah, I would think for the year.
Surprising, just for this particular season. Yeah.
I would the other one I would throw in. It's not anything anybody has control over, but like Wemby with the.
Yeah, I thought about that. The blood clot.
Yeah.
Ross blood clot. Yeah.
I felt like that was a downer.
I think it was just more of a downer than anything.
Yeah.
He was a sure lock for the Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah.
Then you just had got the trade with
Fox.
With Fox, they was making a push for the play-in.
Yeah. And the nature of that particular thing is very much unknown. I'm still not close to being convinced that he returns and has the trajectory it looked like he was on.
Things happen with really tall people in this league, man.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. Lucky for guys like Shaq, it didn't happen till pretty much, towards the end of his career, pretty much.
His was self-inflicted being fat.
Yeah.
His was just a lack of fitness.
Without that, he would have, his prime would have lasted a lot longer.
Yeah.
And it's not because, so essentially you're saying it's not because he was a really tall person.
Yeah.
So maybe he's just an anomaly, but yeah.
Oh, Shaq was an anomaly. But
for the most part, yeah, things happen. Things happen.
I love that you posted the clip from the Gators championship.
Yeah.
And Kodak's reaction.
Oh, and Wemby.
And Wemby, look at the reactions. And Wemby, nothing. There was, he didn't like raise an eyebrow. Like,
well, that's the funny thing because it's like the thing says like Kodak and Wemby reacts to Florida winning that show. So that's what makes it hilarious because like Wemby doesn't even do anything.
You could literally just make memes of like him and like whatever else could have
going on in the back.
Anything.
In the back.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, like, Wemby attending a gangbang. Wemby watching the Eiffel Tower collapse. Like you just like there was nothing. Total zero.
Oh man, that's crazy. Once again, you guys are on the bench, still on the bench podcast with Bubba and Pink, home of sports, music, and mayhem. We're available on all, and I do mean all podcast streaming platforms, including here on YouTube. Like, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff.